lillahi ta'ala. Correct your intentions. All right. We're going over these review questions here, insha'Allah ta'ala. This is our second review session. And we're continuing here. The questions here are under the topic of their names and aliases. Those Wahhabis who call themselves Salafis. And so the first question, which is question 14. Who are the Mushabbihah? And the answer is the Mushabbihah. They are the people who liken God to the creations, or they compare God to the creations. So this word Mushabbihah, that's a plural. Mushabbihah. The singular is Mushabbih. Sometimes, if you know the Arabic letters, sometimes you add a ta marbuta to a word to make it plural. Like here, Mushabbihah. Or if you want, you could say Mushabbihat with the ta. So if you take that ta off and you say Mushabbih, that's a singular. So one is a Mushabbih. Plural is Mushabbihah. Like, for example, one is Wahhabi. Plural is Wahhabiyyah. And many examples like that. That comes from the letters Sheen, Ba, Ha, Shabah. The Shabah is a similar or a likeness. Shabah. Or Shabih. A Shabih also is a similar to another. When you talk about similarity, that means there are two. In order for there to be a likeness, there has to be two. So tashbih of God is what? Shirk. That's shirk, because Allah is one. And He has no similar. He has no shabih. Having a shabih would automatically mean He has a partner. Question here, you said, what about those who delve into ambiguous verses? Mutashabih. So, mutashabih is the ambiguous verse, not the one who delves into it. Mutashabih, but it still comes from the same root letters. Sheen, Ba, Ha. What does it mean? Mutashabih means ambiguous or obscure. How does that come from those root letters? Because if you have two similars, then you could confuse them. If two things are similar, then it's possible to confuse them. So when a matter is unclear, it's mushtabih. It has ishtibah, obscurity, lack of clarity. So those verses of the Quran that are susceptible to more than one meaning in such a way that even if you know Arabic, you might not know what's intended by them. Those are called mutashabih verses. And also there are mutashabih hadiths. And also you could say that there are mutashabih attributes of Allah. And the meaning is those attributes that are mentioned in the mutashabih verses and hadiths. The attributes that are mutashabih means they are mentioned in those verses and hadiths that are mutashabih, like istiwa and yad and ayn, etc. And nuzul. So that's the meaning of Mushabbihah, the likeners or the God comparers. Question 15. What does Salafi mean? What does Salafi mean? So the Wahhabis say, we are the Salafis, the Salafiyyah. We are on the Salafi minhaj. Answer, you said those who follow the Salaf. That's correct. Correct answer. And if we want to give like very literal meaning, it basically means of the Salaf. Salafi means of the Salaf. You said first 3 centuries. Not exactly. Because of the ya on the end. Salafi. That's the question. What does Salafi mean? Now, if you just said, or if the question were, what does Salaf mean? Then you could say, Salaf, that's the first 3 centuries. Correct. Wish I could shrink this box up a little bit more. Okay, so Salafi, it means, the brother said, followers of the Salaf. That's correct. Or if you want to be just very literal, it means of the Salaf, or pertaining to the Salaf. Salafi. That's the meaning of that ya that you put on the end of some words. And Salaf means predecessors. Those who came before. So for us, in religious sense, for the Muslims at large, Salaf means the first 3 centuries in Islam. But anyone who came before you that you follow, that's your Salaf. Whatever time he might have been in. Okay, good. Thank you for that correct answer. Question 16. What if he claims that there is no such faction called the Wahhabiyyah? That's a famous one. Wahhabis say it all the time. I see it in my comment section all the time. There's no such group as they say there's no such group as Wahhabiyyah or Wahhabis. And then from there, they throw insults and things like that. So, an answer for that is that you can say to them, indeed, there is a such group called Wahhabis. The scholars of their time, when they first emerged, called them Wahhabis. There are 2 in particular you can refer to. Anyone know either of those 2? Maybe you'll tell me a name that I don't know, but there's 2 I have in mind. You said Wahhabi means followers of Ibn Wahhab, but that's not the question. The question is, what if he claims that there's no such faction called Wahhabiyyah? Your answer is the answer to a different question. Your answer is an answer to the question, what does Wahhabi mean? But the question is, what if he claims there's no such faction called Wahhabiyyah? You said Sulaiman ibn Abdul Wahhab mentioned this term. Correct answer. That's Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's own brother. He called Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab his brother, his blood brother, and his followers, the Wahhabis. Correct answer. He has a book called As-Sawa'iq al-Ilahiyyah fi ar-Raddi ala al-Wahhabiyyah. The divine bolts in refuting the Wahhabis. Correct. Do you know another scholar who called them, at their time when they first emerged, the Wahhabis? Al-Wahhabiyyah. And I'll remind you, by the way, just for the sake of your pronunciation, there's a shadda on the ha. There's a shadda on the ha. Yani, the way to pronounce it is Wahhabiyyah. A single one is Wahhabi. So a lot of people will just say it without the shadda. They'll just say Wahhabi. Or they might say Wahhabi. Ha. They say ha. Wahhabi. So proper pronunciation is Wahhabi. With a shadda on the ha. 2 H's. Wahhabi. Al-Wahhabiyyah. Yes. The name of the book is As-Sawa'iq Al-Ilahiyyah في الرد على الوهابية. الصواعق الإلهية, the divine bolts, في الرد, in refutation, على, against, yani, in refutation of al-Wahhabiyyah, the Wahhabis. You're welcome. Okay. And as for another scholar at their time who called them the Wahhabis, that's Sheikh Ahmed Zaini Dahlan, the Mufti of Mecca, the one who did the famous explanation of Al-Ajurrumiyyah that we beginners enjoy in Nahu. Okay. Question 17. Is it even permissible to use the name Wahhabi? So that's a close-ended question. Only requires a yes or no. But there's details there. And so it's obvious that, according to us, the answer is yes. It is permissible to use the name Wahhabi. But someone might say, okay, but I mean, what's the proof? How can I explain that to someone who says it's not permissible? What if someone said to me, Al-Wahhab is the name of Allah, and you are talking about people that you claim to be deviants? So how could you use the name of God to explain, to refer to, that is, deviant people, and then call them Wahhabis? How's that permissible? So I'll answer that. But what's this question here? One, this I don't get. There are so many in the UK. They all follow the sunnah, pants above the ankle, fasting on Mondays and Thursdays. They're all over the place. So your question's not, your point is not very clear, are you saying? I don't understand. How is it that they follow the sunnah and put their pants over their ankles and fast on Mondays and Thursdays, and I find them everywhere? How could they be deviants? Is that your question? How could they be deviant people when they follow the sunnah and they put their pants over their ankles and they fast on Mondays and Thursdays, and I find them everywhere? Is that what you're saying? Okay. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in the hadith, "Unasum min jildatina." There are people, they have our skin. Means they look like us. That's really, mashallah, that's a clear expression, especially in these days with, like, video games and things like that. They talk about skin. So what something looks like from the outside. Unasum min jildatina. There are people, they have our skin. They look like us from the outside. Yatakallamuna bi alsinatina. They talk with our tongues. That means they appear to be like us. تَسْمَعُ مِنْهُمْ وَتُنْكِرُ. But if you heard from them, you would object to them. دُعَاتٌ عَلَى أَبْوَابِ جَهَنَّمْ. They are callers to the gates of hell. They are preachers at the gates of hell. مَنِ اسْتَمَعَ إِلَيْهِمْ قَذَفُوهُ فِيهَا. Anyone who listens to them, they will throw him into it. So, you can't let the fact that someone outwardly appears to be a Muslim delude you or fool you. After what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam. Not everyone who displays himself to be a Muslim is one. So that's what they do. That's their disguise. Their disguise is to appear to be Sunni Muslims. Can I spell the hadith? You want me to transliterate that whole hadith? I'll have to do it later, inshallah ta'ala. Oh, you said send. So for some reason, it looked like it said spell. Well, it's in the book if you have the book. Inshallah, you have the book. If you don't have the book, I can send it to you, inshallah. Which page? Okay, so look here. Let me see. Which question are we on here? We're on question 17. Bismillah. So let's look and see what's there. We're talking about their aliases here. Let's see if where's the hadith. In fact, here, I'll search it here. Here's the hadith. And which section is this under here? Question 59. So we're far from that there. So here's the hadith. Under question 59. يَكُونُ دُعَاتٌ عَلَى أَبْوَابِ جَهَنَّمْ. There will be preachers at the gates of hell. مَنْ أَجَابَهُمْ إِلَيْهَا قَذَفُوهُ فِيهَا. They will throw whoever responds to them into it. هُمْ قَوْمٌ مِنْ جِلْدَتِنَا. They are people who resemble us. They have our skin. يَتَكَلَّمُونَ بِأَلْسِنَتِنَا. And they speak with our tongues. So there's the hadith that's narrated by Al-Bukhari. You said, can I send the book? Yeah, I can send the book. Let's see here. قَذَفُوهُ. Throw is more closer. Throw is closer. There's the file for you. I just uploaded it. So, we're on question 17 here. Is it even permissible to use the name Wahhabi? Yes. So, this is how I will handle someone asking me this question. If he says to me, is it permissible to use the name Wahhabi? I'd say, yes, it is. Because that's what he asked me. That's the answer to his question. So if he wants more, usually, I'll let him ask himself. I won't usually assume what the rest of his question might be, though I could surmise what he might really want. So then when I say to him, yes, and then that doesn't satisfy him, then he's going to follow up with another question. Because the next question is really what he wanted. Sometimes people don't know how to express themselves the best. So then his question would be, well, how do I explain that to someone who tells me that it's not permissible? So the answer is, you say to the person, the word Wahhabi, using that to describe those people is correct according to the Arabic language. When those people say it's not permissible to call someone Wahhabi because Al-Wahhab is Allah. Tell them, yes, it's true. Al-Wahhab is Allah. That's true. But when you call them the Wahhabiyyah, you're not referring to Allah. You're attributing them to their leader. So someone says, how's that? You say, because that's the way it goes in Arabic language. Because their leader's name is Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. That's 4 words. Muhammad ibn Abdi al-Wahhab. 4 names, 4 words. So, which of these 4 words you're going to choose, according to the rules of Arabic language, is going to be the last one in a short answer. So you're not going to call them the Muhammadiyah because they follow Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. No. And you're not going to call them the Ibniyah because his name is Ibn Abdul Wahhab. And you're not going to call them the Abdiyah because of Abdul Wahhab. So all that's left is Al-Wahhabiyyah. That's correct Arabic. And the meaning is attributing them to their leader because of his name, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. So if a Wahhabi puts up a resistance here, tell him what I told you. And then if he still rejects, you tell him you're just being stubborn. And you just don't like it. You don't like the fact of the matter that it is correct. It's not wrong. It's not sinful. There's nothing wrong with it. It's correct. If someone followed Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, he's good, Abdul Qadir. What do you call the followers of Sheikh Abdul Qadir? You call them the Qadiriyah. It's not now referring to Allah. Al-Qadir is Allah. But when you call the followers of Sheikh Abdul Qadir the Qadiriyah, you're not referring to Allah now. You're referring to the Sheikh Abdul Qadir. This is correct Arabic. And we have here in the book a reference. Here is a reference from an Arabic language book, the very, very, very famous and prestigious Alfiyyah ibn Malik, 1,000-line poem, the millennial poem of Ibn Malik in Nahu and Sarf. Ibn Malik, he is the Imam of the later scholars in grammar. He's the Imam. Everyone who came after him followed him, and no one who came after him surpassed him. So he says, in mentioning the rule, in 872nd line, I'm just trying to keep this short here. Concerning what is other than this, or other than what he mentioned up here, make nasab by using the first segment, as long as there's no fear of confusion. Like the case of Abdul Ashhal. The case of Abdul Ashhal is subject to confusion. So, someone's name is Abdul Ashhal, and then you wanted to make nasab, that means attribute something to Abdul Ashhal. Since if you say Abdi, that'd be confusing, because that's going to confuse him with anyone else who has Abd in his name. Then you don't use that part of his name, you use the next part, Ashhal. So attributing someone to Abdul Ashhal is by saying Ashhali. That's the rule in Arabic language. So if someone's name was Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, the rule is, in order to make nasab, to attribute something to him, you say Wahhabi. If someone's name was Abdul Qadir, and you want to attribute to him, make nasab to him, then you say Qadiri, not Abdi. So that's the rule according to Arabic language. You said, I can use an analogy. The followers of Imam Malik is called Maliki. However, this may not be a valid analogy because Malikis are not considered deviants. Well, it's close, but it's not exactly the example you want to go to. Why? Because the difference is that Malik's name is a single word, Malik. So it's clear. You're going to call someone who's attributed to Malik a Maliki. And a group of people attributed to Malik would be called the Malikiyyah. The difference here is Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, his name is constructed. It's a compound name. Just take the word Ibn off. Just take the word Muhammad off for now. That's his first name, Muhammad. That's a single word. But the compound is here, Ibn Abdul Wahhab. Those three words are really like one word, Ibn Abdul Wahhab. That's idafa. All of it is idafa. So what's the rule when you want to attribute something to someone whose name is an idafa? His name is a compound. Well, there's different types of compounds. So this type of compound, the rule is you make the nasab from the first part of the name unless that's confusing. If that's confusing, which would be the case here, then you make the nasab from the second part of the name. So is that clear? That's the significance of what we're saying here. This is really the information you need to answer this question properly for a person. Because it's not the addition of the ya that he's objecting to. Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, Hanafi, etc., 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 etc. Salafi, etc., etc., etc. The ya at the end, that's not what he's objecting to. He's saying, how can you use the name Al-Wahhab? That's the name of Allah. You can't use that name to describe some misguided people according to you. People who are, according to you, misguided. So, what's the answer? You tell them, yeah, originally that is the name of Allah, Al-Wahhab. True. But, according to the rules of the Arabic language, what we're saying is correct. It's not disrespect of the name of Allah. It's using the Arabic language properly. So when someone has a constructed name like Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, leave out Muhammad, ibn Abdul Wahhab. So we're not going to say ibni. We're not going to say abdi. So what's left? Wahhabi. Is that clear? Okay, question. Doesn't that rule apply to places of birth or residence? Yes. The general topic is called nasab. Nasab, N-A-S-A-B. Nasab. Nasab means attribution. When you attribute something to something else. So you want to attribute a person to a book. What do you call a Christian or a Jew? A kitabi. From kitab. Then we attribute them to the book. So he's kitabi. Or what if someone is from Baghdad? You want to attribute him to Baghdad? You say Baghdadi. What if someone follows Malik? Then you're going to say Maliki. Like that. That's the broad topic. And then, from that broad topic, there's a question. What if the name that you need to attribute something to is a compound name? That means there's more than one word in that name. Then what's the rule? So in this case, for our topic, The rule is to take the last part of the name, which is Al-Wahhab. So then you apply the ya to the last part of the name. That's a linguistic rule. That's not a disrespect of God. So then a follower or someone attributed to, or anything attributed to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is called Wahhabi. What if it's a book of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab? That book would be a Wahhabi book. It's Wahhabi. What if there were a city that the Wahhabis had? So that city would be a Wahhabi city. It means we're attributing it to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Question, would Qadariyah be an example? Because obviously we do not want to slander Qadar, but it refers to that group. Maybe. The scholars, they spoke about that. Why are they called the Qadariyah if they don't believe in the Qadar? So the scholars have some words about that. Okay. Tayyib. How do Wahhabis justify their body worship? Question 18. Do the Wahhabis actually say that Allah has a body? The answer is not usually. Yeah, not usually. Not usually. If you want to take the general case, the answer is no. Not usually. Not even explicitly. They usually will deny it. If you say to him, you said Allah has a body, he'll say, no, I don't say Allah has a body. They'll deny it. But sometimes they will say, Allah knows. We don't say he's a body. We don't say he's not a body. So they'll be neutral. And sometimes they will, and these are the very dumb ones, they will confirm it. They will say, we don't know how his body is, though. Those are the ones who aren't clever enough to hide the secret. They don't know it's a secret. So they say it out loud. But the ones who know, how you're going to argue with them, they're going to hide it. They're going to say, no, we don't say Allah has a body. So if someone asks me, do the Wahhabis themselves, do they say Allah is a body? Do they say that for themselves? Do they, when they speak for themselves, say Allah has a body? My answer to him would be, not usually. But sometimes they'll be neutral, and sometimes they will. But if they do, they'll say, but we don't know how his body is. So that's how they go. You said, are the Imams in Mecca all Wahhabis? I cannot say that. I can't say that. That would mean I know all the Imams in Mecca. In order for me to say yes, that would mean I know all the Imams in Mecca. But for sure, it's not all of them. There are Ahlul Sunnah. There are Ahlul Sunnah in Mecca, but they're not in control. The Wahhabis control Saudi Arabia, what they call Saudiyyah. It's not even originally Saudiyyah. Ask a Wahhabi if you want. Why it's called Saudi Arabia? The Prophet was from Saudiyyah? Or if you ask him, what country the Prophet was from? He might say, that Wahhabi might say, he's from Saudi. He's from Saudi Arabia. If that's what it was then? It was Saudi Arabia? No. The Saud family, they took it over. They were Wahhabis. are. Yeah, I don't know, are or were, but they were. Yeah, I don't know what's their case today. There are brothers and sisters there in Arabia. It's a very big area. And it includes, okay, well. Yeah, there are. Yeah. So originally, that whole peninsula is called Jaziratul Arab, the island of the Arabs. It's not an island, though, but that's what they called it. Jaziratul Arab, the island of the Arabs. What it means, though, is the peninsula of the Arabs, the Arabian Peninsula. And it has several countries like Al-Yemen, that's its own country there on that peninsula. And the Bahrain and Oman and some other places. And then the biggest portion there is what some people call Saudiya. That's how arrogant they were. They named it after themselves. Okay. So question 19. What if the Wahhabi denies that Allah has a body? Or if he denies it, if he says, no, Allah is not a body. So then my answer to him would be, that's correct. So don't say what you are saying then. Don't say on one hand, Allah is not a body, and then on the other hand, you say he's over the throne, and he has real eyes, real hands, real face, real foot, real shin. He puts his real foot into hellfire, really. And then you turn around and say, but he's not a body, because that's silly. That's silliness of the mind. So then he's going to say, you use your mind. I say, that's right. You don't use your mind. You should be embarrassed. Question 20. What if they take a neutral position about Allah having a body or not? So if the Wahhabi says, we don't say he's a body or not a body, the answer is, you say, that's kufr. You need to say your shahada. You need to fix your creed and say your shahada. If he says, how's that kufr? Tell him, because you can't be neutral about the attributes of Allah, about the exaltation of Allah. You have to be firm that Allah is not a body. You can't say, we don't say he is, we don't say he isn't. And from there, the Wahhabis will say anything. I heard them. Like, you would say, so do you say then that Allah does a backflip? They'll say, we don't say he does or he doesn't. You would think he would say, no, we don't say he does a backflip. And then you'd say, so then don't say he's a body. But you'd be surprised if you say, well, do you say he does a backflip? He'd say, we don't say he does a backflip or he doesn't do a backflip. Or the likes of that. Do you say Allah has shoes? He'd say, we don't say he has shoes or he doesn't have shoes. That's kufr. That's kufr. You need to take your shahada with the right belief. Yeah. Here. Jaziratul Arab. Jaziratul Arab. Like that news station, Jazeera, Al Jazeera, same word. You said, could a response be, it's kufr to remain neutral because in order to be classified as a believer, a person must be certain that the creator does not resemble the creation? Yes. That is a response. So maybe a Wahhabi would say, oh, where'd you get that this is kufr from? This is what our imams say. This is the Salafi minhaj. Ibn Uthaymeen said that. We don't say and we don't not say. Then, say Imam At-Tahawi, which statement of At-Tahawi are you referring to?
the statement of
ومن وصف الله بمعنى من معاني البشر فقد كفر.
Okay, but he's going to say, I didn't describe him with that. I said maybe, I don't know if it is or it isn't. So there's a more direct reference, which is the one we have here. What Imam Abu Hanifa said. من اعتقد حدوث صفة من صفات الله أو شك أو توقف كفر. Whoever believed in the createdness of an attribute among the attributes of Allah, or he doubted, or he was neutral, he has disbelieved. So that proves that you can't be in the middle. And if you want a reference that Wahhabis do say that, this is here the verbatim statement of Ibn Uthaymeen in his book Al-Liqa' al-Shahri. He said, Al-mutakallimu bil-lugha yatakallamu bil-lisan. The one who speaks a language does so by a tongue. أما الرب عز وجل فلا يجوز أن نثبت له اللسان ولا أن ننفيه. As for the Lord Azza wa Jal, it is not permissible for us to confirm a tongue for him, nor to deny it from him. لأنه لا علم لنا بذلك. For we have no knowledge of that. That's the Wahhabi creed. Being neutral. This Wahhabi creed, according to Abu Hanifa, is kufr. You said, can I repeat that? Repeat which part? What do you need me to repeat for you? How we can't remain neutral. So here's the statement of Abu Hanifa. The statement of Abu Hanifa suffices you. Man i'taqada huduth sifa. Whoever believed in the createdness of an attribute, min sifatillah, among the attributes of Allah. Oh shakka, or he doubted if it was created. Oh tawaqqaf, or he was neutral that it's created. That means saying, I'm not saying it's created or not. That's what it means to be neutral. Kafar, he has disbelieved. He committed kufr. That's the real Salafi creed. Yes, this is in his book Al-Wasiyyah. هكذا Al-Wasiyyah. See, this book here, How to Debate the So-Called Salafiyyah by the Grace of Allah, it has just about everything you need. Maybe there's still 2 or 3 references that the book needs, so you know where to find it, whatever's there. You said, what if these idiots use the statement of Abu Hanifa to attribute a place to God? Some of them do that. They're just being disingenuous when they do that. We're going to come to that. We have some talk about that here. Where they take a piece of what Abu Hanifa said, and they know the rest of what's there. In the very same paragraph, they know it's there. Except some of them who don't check. You have 2 groups of Wahhabis. Yani, let's see, where's that? Bismillah. Here. Take, for example, how they frequently misquote Abu Hanifa. They say Abu Hanifa said, this is just one of those quotes. They have some others too. نُقِرُّ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ اسْتَوَى عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. We confess that Allah rose over the throne. That's what they say. They say even Abu Hanifa said it. But what happened to the rest of the statement in Al-Wasiyyah that continues? Right after that, you nasty, dirty, filthy Wahhabi who on purpose cut off the rest of the quote while you knew it was there. When Abu Hanifa said all of this, which means, I'll just read the English. When he said, نُقِرُّ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ اسْتَوَى عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. He was saying, we confess that Allah istawa ala al-arsh, not rose over the throne, just istawa ala al-arsh. How we know he wasn't saying rose over the throne? Because he said right there, without there being for him any need of it or dwelling over it. And he is the preserver of the arsh and of other than the arsh. For had he been in need, he would not have had the power to create the world and manage it. Like the creation. Yani, just like the creation doesn't have the power to create the world and manage it. The creation that's in need doesn't have the power to create the world and manage it. So had he been in need, he wouldn't have had the power to create the world and manage it. And had he been needy of sitting and dwelling, then before creating the arsh, where was Allah? Exalted is He. Exalted is Allah from that highly and greatly. That's Abu Hanifa's quote. That's the rest of it. The part that they cut off on purpose. So you have two groups of Wahhabis here. Those who know about the rest of that paragraph and they're just never going to tell you. And those who don't care about investigating for their own sake. To look and see that that filthy Wahhabi sheikh of his gave him a piece of the statement to misguide him. They have other things like that. When they talk about the yad, all those statements from Abu Hanifa that they use them disingenuously. They use statements from Abu Hanifa while they don't even like Abu Hanifa actually. They hate Abu Hanifa. They're quoting him sometimes, from time to time, with something, with some cherry-picked piece of a quote. It's just to stick it to Ahlus Sunnah. Just to misguide people. Hakadha. So make sure you study the book here. We went through the whole book. It's not the first time we went through it. And the recordings are on YouTube. This playlist, How to Debate the So-Called Salafiyy, has maybe almost 100 videos there. Old and recent. And you have the book there so you can review. Insha'Allah ta'ala. Alright, so I think our hour is just about up. It went so fast. Especially thanks to your participation. The crowd participation was exhilarating. Let's see where we left off at here. So, the last question here, before getting to the next topic. Would a Wahhabi actually say that Allah has a body? And the answer is yes, he might. When he's a dumber one. Because some Wahhabis are slick. And some Wahhabis are morons. And some Wahhabis are uninformed. And if you give them information, they'll retract. But it's rare. Some of them, they think they have the truth. And if you give them information, they'll accept and they will leave off their Wahhabism. It's rare though. You said your sheikh said that some of them call Abu Hanifa Abu Karkis. Wal'iyadu billah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You said, was that page 129 in my book? Yeah, that's what it looks like. Here, page 128, question 81. What about all the quotes they produce from major scholars saying that they believe that Allah rose over the throne? And then that's where we have Abu Hanifa's quote that they misuse. That they abuse. Ameen wa fiik. Tayyib, let's stop there.